So
I know. Well, I was worried this morning talking about AI that it could possibly take over our jobs. But see, we still need some humans to sort things out.
I don't know. But you know, when people continue to say this guy, Zibby let Chibuzor go. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. He's not human being that developed AI.
Okay. All right. Our first headline this morning comes from Punch. Protests. Nigeria can't survive on 4,000 megawatts. And this is according to the NLC boss, Joe Ajaero.
He has just realized it. Well, the president of Nigeria Labour Congress, they've been picketing electricity distribution companies and the NEC office made this assertion yesterday saying that we can survive on 4,000 megawatts. I thought we knew that a long time ago. But anyway, the reality of it is they're trying to get NEC to reverse the decision of the increase in price for band A and tell, just tell them to provide the electricity for all Nigerians rather than segregating Nigerians. But, but let me just clarify this. There's always been segmentation when it comes to power over time. Um, there are what you call the MDs. And then under the what's it called? The tariffs, you had commercial, you had um, what's it called? They had individual. So all this, they just reclassified the way they want it to be. It hasn't really changed the nomenclature in terms of the types of um, of billing system that they've had. So that's just that. But 4,000 megawatts, that's what we've been. And everybody continues to. He made mention of how many more power plants are we building? We have enough power plants to generate between 12 to 15,000 megawatts of electricity in Nigeria. The question is, can we transmit it? And if we transmit it, can we distribute it effectively and efficiently? If we can only transmit 4,000, then that's what happened. Generation companies many of them are working suboptimally. They have to more or less ration the the quantity or quantum of electricity they pass on to the grid. So Joe Ajaero telling us the obvious that we can become industrialized with 4,000 megawatts for 200 million Nigerians. I guess when he was there, I'm not sure we did any better, and that's the reality. So for me, it's like flogging a dead horse, and that I'll just leave it at that. I'd like to please do.
I'm one of the people that um my viewpoint about unions and the existence and need of unions has varied over the years. And when I say unions, including labor congresses, student unions, and all that. Back in school, we used to enjoy the fact that the unions would help us get reduced fees or would fight fee increases because it paid us as individuals. And I think that's where we're stuck, even in our labor unions and co. What I would want to see, and I've said it to a lot of, that's my personal opinion, is a labor union that is a bit more engaging and brings a lot more value to the table.
I agree with you.
If you look at the constitution, so the entire idea of having the NLC or TUC or whatever guys they are in as labor unions is that they make up a cross segment of people who work in various industries. So I'm expecting that in this instance, we have people who have served, who have given value, who have created value, who have worked within the power industry. So when Joagero comes with this kind of lazy propositions, I'm sorry, I'm going to use that word, that are not backed by data or backed by fact or alternate ideas, then it tells me that all they do is just after taking palm wine, you need palm wine joint and taking small beef, maybe pepper or more. But you just head somewhere and you get a press conference. What I would expect is that you go in and I say, guys, this is your area. Give me a study and give me something I can put on the table and find back at the government that we can achieve this as an alternative without having to increase tariffs or increase funds. I'll invert this voice. There's the inverted pyramid when it comes to power. Somebody has to pay. So you're looking at how to pay. That's why you have market segmentation, and it's not different in any part of the world. In the stadiums, you have popular side, And you have VIP and VVIP if you need the same thing in every event. So somebody's going to pay the larger cost.
You have those boxes where people.
Yes, I will also take into consideration who are not, some people are not going to pay. Because they jump over and come in. But it's part of the plan. So, those are the things on the table. Can they come forward with an alternative position that the government can seriously look at?
Just to note, the commission concerning new power plants, that's from the news. Concerning new power plants, the focus of the commission is now to make sure that idle capacities that we have today are brought on track. This was yesterday. If you look at the grid today, that's at 5:20 p.m. yesterday, they are doing only 600 megawatts. So I really don't know.
There's a lot of idle.
I know.
All right, let's go on to the next headline. Abimbola, that is a wrong number. Wrong number. This is Smooth FM. From Daily Trust, stakeholders unite to tackle out-of-school children syndrome in Northeast.
So 3 states in the Northeast, Adamawa, Bauchi, and Gombe, their stakeholders have met and converged in Gombe to discuss the out-of-school children in the Northeast. Background, let's remember that Northeast is where we've had a lot of it's also had a lot of the attacks from Boko Haram, a lot of the displacements, we've had IDPs, we've had a lot of things. We've had, before that, we've had the out-of-school children problem. We've had the Ajaero issues, which is another discussion on its own. So I think what has happened here is that various stakeholders have met. You have UNICEF also, the Bauchi field officer was there, and he said about 10.2 million primary school children and 8.1 million junior secondary school children are currently out of school across the country. That's we're talking about 10.2 million young Nigerians in primary school and 8.1 million young Nigerians in secondary school, junior secondary school, are officially out of school across the country. About 18 million officially out of school, because we do know that these numbers could be much more.
That's almost 10% of this.
Well, so those are problems that we need to be looking at. Because what happens is that in the next few years, those guys would be in positions where they would probably not want to continue education and be looking to put themselves into the workforce, and they don't have the skills to be put in the workforce, so they become another cost that the country needs to take care of. So the UNICEF representative said that basically there was need for collaboration with the stakeholders to reverse the trend. He said he identified the policy planning, budget allocation, teacher shortages, infrastructure, cultural norms, etc. Now, one of my challenges, is some of these things that have been highlighted are things that for me are problematic, and we see not because of just of the impact within that region, but on the impact on the rest of the country. I stand to be corrected, but since the 70s, we've operated this interesting system where, when you want to have access to particular, I think you used to call them unity schools. You have some disparity in scores. Particular states have lower scores that allow them to have particular entrances. And that flows even as far as to JAM, where you have educationally disadvantaged states. And this is one of the things that when we talk about policy, you have a program that was set aside to try and bring some parity into education across the nation, which was, and I stand to be corrected, started out sometime in the 70s or maybe in the 60s. We have never, to my knowledge, looked at that program again and said, what are these states doing to get educationally advantaged? The states on top, how are they keeping, how are they keeping up? How do we tie to something that gives incentives for states to actually push forward the educational standards within their states? It is a bit shocking that you go to a lot of schools in the north and there's a lack of basic infrastructure. I'm not talking about anything complex, chairs and tables and walls. Chairs, tables, and walls where people can sit under and rain will not fall on them and sun will not shine on their heads. It's quite shocking in places where you have large expanses of land to build that they don't have that basic stuff. They don't have those basic stuff. Now you bring in all the insurgencies and all the disruptions and you mix it in, and you can imagine the worst case scenario that you have today. So I do hope that this is a step in the right direction, that after the JoJo and the talks, they actually go back, look at this seriously and look at the impact, because the impact is so widespread. The impact is developmental. How well are these areas developing? How well can they bring value to the table? How well can the states grow? How well can we give something to the next generation in Nigeria? And we are failing as a country in that respect. So hopefully this is one of the steps in the right direction. And hopefully they can bring all the various parts together, the Almajari students, because I don't think the Almajaris are catered for in these numbers. No matter the form of education, I think we need to sit down. It's not about the religion, whatever form of religion. We need to sit down and actually think through it, that, if you're going to give religion this level of whatever education, this kind of, we need to structure it policy wise, and we need to be clear where we are going to. I'm not sure that we have done that here.
All right, thanks, Chibuzor, for that. Let's look at some of the messages we have coming through. Francis from Ojo says, please, why are we still focused on generating electricity from one source only? It's so tiring. Why can't the government make it duty-free for the importation of solar panels and make a specific price sale? Guess the number of people using the electricity would drop and few would have better electricity services. Why, Chibuzor, you don't agree?
No.
Solar panels will still generate the electricity. You need to transmit them. Are you just saying that you want to build in solar panels, or you want to build a solar panel generating system? And so there are a number of things that have to do with Chibuzor.
So I think what
people are doing that.
What people are talking about is basically what you have in some of the developed countries, where you have zero tariffs or green energy tariffs. So,
but it still has to go through a transmission.
No, so they are not thinking about pushing anything to any grid.
Yeah,
These guys are thinking of bringing it and setting up in their homes
on top of their houses.
Exactly.
And for how many can you do with that?
Well, it depends on your need. So,
yeah, and I agree with you.
So
but the fact of it is that at the end of the day, they're still generating electricity. Even if you put it on top of, I've spoken to some people in development, property development, and I've asked them, why don't you just use at solar panels and generate electricity? Exactly. And you can sell it out also. And these are things that you can do, but you need to also be able to transmit it from one point to the other.
So you're talking about a bigger problem.
Exactly.
In how you even construct.
Exactly.
Kind of permit.
Exactly.
The kind of thought process
exactly.
that goes into. And this
it's amazing today that you build houses. No internet, they now have to run wires after you finish building the house. So I think we need to move on to that. Let's move on to other things. But I don't totally agree with it.
Okay. All right, Abimbola. Cisco Delgado says, forget about the NLC, all talk, no action. I've said it over time that Nigeria doesn't need meetings upon meetings and deliberations over issues confronting the nation. If you want to maximize our power transmission lines for effective services, what is the federal government doing to overhaul the dilapidated transmission lines? We need action. And he says, why they have a friend selling part of his solar power within his estate. It's achievable. Okay. Tony Chima says, Joe Ajaero and the labor union still have more to picket. They should locate the studio manager of the strange beat makers and picket his yard. Okay. How can you move from disco to band and not? All right. It's a lot to read on site and process. But let's keep the conversation going. Our next headline comes from Vanguard. CBN will retain high interest rates to tame inflation. This according to the CBN governor.
I know the MPC is next week, Monday and Tuesday, and Yemi Cardoso is just telling us the truth. They might probably, depending on what the inflation numbers are, it should come out maybe tomorrow or next. Once they see that, they'll probably push up MPR once again, because those are the only instruments that they have to fight inflation until we get the fiscal side right, which we're beginning to hear the chairman of the fiscal and tax planning committee, make at least start to speak again after a long start to speak again about the plans that have been put in place, the things that have been sent to the executives for review. And it's sounding like good news. If all the things are put into place. I remember I was at the session and I heard where some of these things were being put in place. Some of them might require constitutional changes, as the case may be. But the CBN governor is just speaking the truth. That's how he knows how to. That's the orthodox way for dealing with monetary policy issues. Even in America, they refuse to drop the interest rates because inflation is still battling. And despite the fact they've been able to manage it over the last 6 months to 1 year, it's still going to be like that. So he's just speaking his mind and telling us that if inflation figures go up on Wednesday, the rest assured that MPC is going to increase MPR. And I don't know what rate it will be, but it depends on maybe another one basis.
All right, let's see. Abbas says there's zero tariff on clean energy, which requires clearance from the government, and the solar panels without diodes are duty free. Anthony says it's sad that we wake up and we talk about this 4,000 megawatts grid collapses every now and then, and nobody is losing their jobs at the end of the day amidst all the blessings of whatever we need to generate electricity and the best of the brains in this country. It gets one really annoyed because we're still talking about this same problem at this stage of our national life. How has it become rocket science in this country? We need to. We need to wake up and be frontal with the government on this issue. If we ever hope to get out of this, we need solar panels duty free to reduce dependence on the non-working grid. Okay. Uade shakes his head, but he doesn't want to get into it. Let's move on to the next headline, and this one is coming from Premium Times. Tinubu mandates government MDAs to buy only gas-powered vehicles.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm so sorry, Chibuzor. I'm so sorry. No, I'm giving a rocket launcher instead.
No. There's very obviously one of the things, one of the issues with politics because it's been very abused in this country. One of the measures that have been taken or put forward by this government to try and alleviate the impact of the decreased cost of premium motor payments or fuel, as you call it here, is to roll out the gas-powered vehicles, the CNG. And they try to do this, albeit at a limited, on a limited level across the states for public transportation systems. They've also at some point tried to set up various plans, try to work with the entities to set up various plans where people can convert their vehicles at cost to CNG powered vehicles. Now, the next step the president has taken is to ask that nobody should bring anything in front of him that requires the approval. If it's not about for buying new cars or purchasing new cars, if it's not about CNG. So, I don't know. One of the things that worries me is that the president is still having to sign off on buying new cars with a lot of issues like that. But that's by the way.
That was more important is buying new cars.
That's by the side. I really, really think that there were issues with the presidency with him. What do I know? The big issue for me here is it's not even an issue because he's basically keeping in line with his mandates. He's basically keeping in line with what he's been saying about, that saying is the way forward. And in truth, Nigeria, a lot of people work in the sector will say Nigeria is a gas-rich country. So it would be nice for us to use a lot more of our gas, use this as an opportunity to push it out as a viable product and increase sales, and also hopefully at some point increase our investment into gas resources. Because unfortunately, for all the talk, we have not invested what we need to invest into that space. The irony of it all is that while the government is asking us to buy CNG and not buy fuel, we are trying to convince the rest of the world to buy our fuel. So that we can have money to do that thing. So it's quite ironic, but that's where we are to. Good to do.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Stay with us. The conversation continues.
Music. I'm back. I'm
having fun today. I'm thinking myself that that's the only thing I'm going to be having with all these things. This one that is speaking English, solar panel is just it. Because you have solar panel in one estate, so that you know how they are called solar farms. They generate electricity and then they pass it through a transmission.
Well, so I think he means like on an individual basis, right?
Thinking about it. We're so individual. Sorry, we're so individual that that's why.
All right, back on.
Talk about it.
It's freshly pressed on Smooth 98.1. Uade and Chibuzor are the analysts with me this morning. We're looking at the stories making the headlines. We'd love to get your thoughts, so please keep them coming. WhatsApp number 0809 440 And you can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube, so you can catch the live stream and you can also post a comment on there as well. Let's look at some of the messages coming through. Ajayi says it's actually sad that the country continues to depend on this 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts of electricity. And even to hear some people say that the distribution and transmission is the issue is all the more shocking. These are tasks that other countries undertake as a routine. Francis from Ojo says NLC with their unending closed door meetings that don't see to how employees' welfare goes in terms of how most employers employ, especially for third-party companies, while paying barely above the minimum and overusing staff. NLC needs to do better. Joseph Menu says, if only the government can be sincere for once. They talked about CNG till today, nothing. Why can't they remove the excess charges and duties on solar equipment? Okay. If they can do so, many people, even the roadside salons, would have one. Abbas says the government has brought in a lot of CNG buses, which are already coming in out of the ports. Some of them are still in the ports awaiting clearance, and we hope that they can actually follow through with this if they are truly interested in clean energy. All right, thank you, Judy. That is a problem that we've noted, and we're going to ensure that the engineering team gets on it ASAP so this can be sorted. And we're moving on to our next headline, and this one comes from Punch. $2.5 billion fraud, the FCC to collaborate with UK prosecutors in Diziani's case.
According to reports, there were signs over the weekend that the FCC joined forces with the UK prosecutors as interested parties on the trial of former petroleum minister in Nigeria, Diziani Alison-Maduka, in the alleged £100,000 bribe that they are currently going to try her for. They're also looking at the possibilities of getting a stake in the alleged seizure of the $2.5 billion worth of property is alleged that he has, and they're making all efforts. I think a team of from the EFCC would head to the UK this week to go work out those modalities and see how I will go. But the one thing that caught my attention in this story is that the trial, according to the story, doesn't start till November 2025, which is a long time. I hope the trial proceedings for Diziani's case are scheduled to commence in November 2025. That's at least a year and a half or a year and 3 months. That's a long time. But it gives them ample time to work with the UK team to understand the facts of the case and ensure that at the end of the day, they put in their request as correctly as possible.
All right, thanks, Wadi. Let's move on to our next headline, and it's coming from Daily Trust. Abuja bullied student files 500 million naira lawsuit against school, demands public apology.
Okay.
Payday!
Let me try Voila. Who was written slapped by another classmate and bullied, which is part of the bullying process. She was captured. Obviously, a lot of us, I won't say all of us, did see the videos where she was slapped by another student from the same school. She has decided to get her pound of flesh from the school by asking. She's basically gone to court and filed a 500 million naira lawsuit against the school. Basically, the lawsuit is seeking damages from the school, stating that the alleged failure of the school to offer a safe and conducive learning environment resulted in what had happened. Her lawyers, that's Marvin Omorigbe of DJDNU and Partners Law Firm, has taken decision to drag, said that they are taking the decision to drag the school to court was targeted at holding the school accountable for its negligent behavior regarding the highly publicized incident. So the defenders are also asking for a public apology to the claimant in two national daily newspapers, as well as the 500 million naira general damages for the defenders breach of duty. So why am I on this thought process? On one side, I think it also raises the consciousness about school responsibilities to create an environment that is safe for students. But they also, for me, also the flip side about it is that schools, as much as schools will try, there is so much schools will be able to do to prevent a lot of these issues. Students, while schools would have policies that are directed towards stopping bullying, should create channels where students can report bullying or alleged bullying, should be able to have at least some level of coverage in terms of to make sure that people are not exposed to bullying. Maybe have teachers in dorm rooms or whoever is sleeping in the dorm rooms where the children are, and make sure that at some point the students who are attempted to be who are about to be bullied can always walk up to the teacher or someone around. Some of these controls would be at the end of the day not preventive, but would be reactive. Now, based on this principle, would everybody be able to go to court and hold the school liable if bullying has happened? Because you have controls that are reactive at the end of the day that will pass through the preventive stage, these things would have happened before the schools will be able to take an action. But for me, it's going to be interesting to see how this case goes through the courts. I would like it to go through the court and let's get some determination, because it also would set some precedents for future behavior. But I think outside of the court case and where it goes, I think schools need to take a step back and be firm on anti-bullying practices, policies, and also ensure that parents know that apart from just bringing their kids to those schools and paying whatever fees that the schools request for, they also have a responsibility, and the schools will hold them also accountable if their kids take those actions. Because a lot of parents have decided to, what's the word now, outsource the bringing up of their kids to schools and education institutions. And unfortunately, as busy as people are, you cannot do that. It's primarily responsibility of the parents. But it's a good thing to see. Let's see how this case goes through. I like cases going to court because it also allows us to be able to learn from them and give some precedents for future behavior. I just hope that this is not one of those cases that we just want to use and make noise and get some cheap popularity. So let's see what this goes ahead.
All right, let's look at some of the messages coming through. Gilbert says, on the proposed CNG buses, let us take note of key structures that should be in place before the buses come into operation. The bus structure we currently operate, BRT, is unstable and lacks proper maintenance as we speak. We have to fix this first. AB Ambo says, Nigeria is like a 3-story building powered by a better past my neighbor generator. To make matters worse, a rickety one. I see no reason why after 6 decades of our independence, we cannot generate above this amount. We have rivers to build more hydroelectric dams. We have gas in abundance. There's coal for coal-powered plants. We must cast them by in the spirit of darkness that is keeping us in perpetual blackout. We're taking it to church on a Tuesday morning. Oluwaseyi says, the school has the money. Let them pay, because as far as I'm concerned, the school is culpable. Well, that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed this morning. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your messages. And of course, special thanks to our analysts for being amazing. As always, it's Uade and Chibuzor. Thank you.
Thank you, Zibby. Thank you, Lagos, for listening to us.
Do stay with us. There is a lot more to come on the Smooth Breakfast.